Today we are going to discuss the topic classical conditioning. Whenever we hear the term classical conditioning, our mind automatically thinks about dog and balsam. So for that, I'm using this picture. So today's topic is classical conditioning. Before that, we should know the concept of learning. The term learning, broadly speaking, stands for all those changes and modification in the behavior of the individual which he undergoes from birth till death. It is concept of learning. Classical conditioning introduction. Classical conditioning is proposed by Ivan Pavlov. It is one of the type of associative learning. Associative learning can be defined as a type of learning in which behavior is linked to a new stimulus. Classical conditioning, a type of learning in which a neutral stimulus comes to bring about a response after it is paired with a stimulus that neutrally bring that response. That is the classical conditioning. Stimulus response SR theories are central to the principle of conditioning. These are the principle of this conditioning. They are based on the assumption that human behavior is learned. So this is very important. So the theory pointed out that human behavior is learned one. Next one is the terms related to classical conditioning. There are 4 terms. It is unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, conditioned stimulus, and conditioned response. The other 3 terms are stimulus, response, and neutral stimulus. First one, we have to know that stimulus. What is stimulus? Stimulus means a thing or event that evokes a specific reaction in an organ. That is stimulus. The next one is response. Response means a reaction as that of an organism or mechanism to a specific stimulus. That is response. Next one is neutral stimulus. This is stimulus does not neutrally comes the object to respond in a certain way. These are the basic terms of classical conditioning. Then other form terms are CS, CR, US and UR. So first one is unconditioned stimulus. It is US or UCS, a stimulus that neutrally causes a particular response. Next is UCR. It means unconditioned response, the unlearned response that occurs naturally in response to the conditioned stimulus. Next one is CS, conditioned stimulus. It means a previously neutral stimulus that when paired with an unconditioned stimulus trigger a conditioned response. Next is CR, which means conditioned response. It is learned response to the previously neutral stimulus. These are the terms of classical conditioning. Next, we are move on the topic Pavlov's experiment of classical conditioning. Pavlov used dog and bell for his experiment. The Pavlov's dog experiment in the year of 1890s. He is a Russian scientist. Ivan Pavlov was studying aspect of digestive process by observing salivation in dogs. When he made the observation that dogs began to salivate before the food arrived. For example, at the sight of the food, try or sound of the assistant's footstep. These works become the foundation for classical conditioning and the behavioral approach to psychology. Then the experiment steps. Next, we are discussing the topic, the experiment steps of classical conditioning. Dog is kept hungry on experimental table fitted with a mechanically controlled device. Observer is hidden from dog, but he can see the dog through his mirrors. The next is the procedure of classical conditioning. There are 4 procedures. First one is bell sound. Then food is produced. The next is dog sees food and salivates. Third one is step 1 is repeated several times. And fourth one is bell sound, dog salivates. These are the steps or procedures for classical conditioning. Then I mentioned a picture for the pictoric representation of classical conditioning experiment. So you guys should go through these pictures. Next is principles of classical conditioning. The principles are accusation, generalization, discrimination, extinction, spontaneous recovery. These are the principles of classical conditioning. Accusation means response happens gradually. Generalization means response is similar to a range of similar stimuli. Discrimination means response is different to similar stimuli. Extinction means gradual disappearance of a conditioned response. Spontaneous recovery means reappearance of a conditioned response to conditioned stimulus. These are the important principles of classical conditioning. This is the overall idea of classical conditioning. Thank you.